Lady must also be answered.
Yes. So they are in the room.
I have prepared the answers so I
Yes.
could share the copies with you.
Yes.
And thank you for sending them in advance, so it gave us some time to prepare answers for you. So I will just go through a few highlights, and then we will send you the answers also.
Any specific stats? Yes.
Yes. So the first question that you are interested in was the aviation recovery is slow in key markets. Is this of a concern to you? So I agree with you that improving air access is a priority for us. We want to make it possible for more people to visit South Africa. Also, direct routes is also essential for us to grow tourism in our country. I know even with myself, when I'm flying, I like to fly direct to my destination without having to go via another country. So in the UK, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic, they both offer daily flights from the UK to Johannesburg and Cape Town. And then North Atlantic Airways, this one, they are going to launch a new direct route from London Gatwick to Cape Town. And that's starting on the 28th of October 2024. So as you can see, we're slowly improving. The UK and Ireland is a great market for us. There are a number of indirect flights, which include Ethiopian Airlines, Kenyan Airlines, Qatar, Lufthansa, and also the Swiss airline. But they indirect, coming from their countries into via Europe into South Africa. Our own airline, South African Airways. Well, we've taken a very cautious approach to opening up to international markets. Because we are looking forward to have the direct flight back between SAA, between Cape Town and Eoghan to London. And they've made great strides, but they've not fully recovered after COVID. During COVID, they've gone into business rescue. And at the time, the government also didn't have money to rescue them. Because in the past, they've received a number of bailouts from government. And during COVID, it was just not possible. A private sector company came in during COVID and made an arrangement with government to take over the operations of SAA, and on the condition that 51% ownership for this private company and 49% to government. And yes, at that time it worked. They were able to bring back a number of flights into the region. They've been able to bring back a flight between Brazil, Sao Paulo, and Cape Town and Johannesburg. They've just last week launched a flight from Eoghan to Perth. And it was fully booked. So they were slowly coming back. Unfortunately, a couple of months ago, what happened was that there was I still don't know what the reason was, but this 51% ownership versus 49%, that deal came unstuck. And currently SAA is looking for a new partner. They're looking for equity. And there's quite a lot of interest. So we hope in the next couple of months, we will be able to see South African Airways become more settled, because it's now in a transition from the other private company to looking for a new equity partner. In terms of incentives for airlines to fly here, yes, we are working with the airports company, the Department of Transport. The cabinet, my cabinet, President Ramaphosa, has asked the Department of Tourism to do a national air access proposal. Because currently what you have got 4 different provinces doing their own air access. Cape Town air access, Durban direct, Eastern Cape, and also Gauteng. And the intention and the proposal that I will be putting before Cabinet is that we need to establish a special purpose vehicle that consists of the private sector and the public sector. I personally don't believe that government should run airlines. Government can own an airline, but they certainly should not run it. And therefore, we want the private sector involved right from the beginning. Now, this question, how important is the UK market to South African tourism? You can't even put a value to it because it's very, very, very important. It's the second biggest overseas market after America. So that is how important the UK and Ireland is. It's our second biggest overseas market after America. And we've seen the UK and Ireland since COVID-19, since 2019, we've seen almost an 82% increase. So it's a very important market for us. You know, out of the international arrivals that we've seen, for instance, now the first quarter of this year, from January to March, we've also seen a big growth there. And it's really contradicting. There was some alert put out about South Africa and the safety and all of that. Because what we've seen from both UK and Ireland, we've only seen growth. So, but in any case, that was dealt with at another level at our international relations department. Now, yesterday also on Air Access, I have engaged with all the 26 African ministers that are here and deputy ministers on air access into Africa. You know, sometimes you have to travel out of Africa and then come back. And hopefully, we've also discussed it last year, hopefully we can find a way whereby African governments can realize the value of air access and improving air access, especially in the continent. We spoke yesterday about what are some of the issues that are holding back some African countries. You know, it's just regulations, the high taxes to enter. There are a number of things that African governments must look at so that we can incentivize, you know, other airlines to fly for our country. Now, this is my favorite question. What sets South Africa apart from other destinations? Many things. But I think for me, the first one is the value of the rand against the pound. The euro. The exchange rate. The euro and the pound. It is, you come here, you're really getting value for money. The British tourists are able to afford our 5-star hotels. And so, in terms of value for money, that certainly is a great attraction. Then, of course, the city of Cape Town and, of course, also South Africa, we have received numerous international awards. Just recently, Cape Town was placed second out of 40 destinations for value for money. And then, of course, you know about the UK Telegraph, voted South Africa the best country to visit, and Cape Town the best city to visit. And of course, the high level of service received across the value chain of tourism. We are blessed with sun and you name it, lovely beaches. What we are doing now is that we are beginning to diversify our tourism offering. What is being left out in our previous marketing strategy, we left out an important sector within the tourism sector, and that is our primary small towns, our villages, our townships. And we've now brought them in to become part of that diversification. We call them hidden gems. And that's why you must go and visit the Hidden Gems village. That's here on the floor. The 120 small, medium enterprises that you will see there, they all come from the small villages, the townships. The Department of Tourism, my department, paid for them to be here. Paid accommodation, we paid travel, we bought the space on the floor, and there are 120 of them there. And you will see they are the real hidden gems. I mean, I discover them all the time as I travel around our country. So we are putting that into the offering, no longer just safaris and Table Mountain. There's a lot more to see. But where we also need help from your side is that I think what is set in is travelers coming to Cape Town, going into safari and go home. Or go to safari and go to Cape Town and go home. We are trying to show with our hidden gems the many value for money hidden gems that you can find in our country. And even like Cape Town, you drive 50 kilometers outside of Cape Town, you get to a small French town called Franschhoek. Lots of offering there. You drive maybe from Cape Town into the Garden Route, or you can fly a 40-minute flight to get there. So we are trying to broaden the scope of what we want to show you that's available in South Africa. We signed an agreement with Google and with Airbnb, and they will be assisting us to put these small hidden gems on the world Google map. And so we have identified them. There's a website that was just established about 4 months ago, where we've asked all of the small towns and townships and villages to register on that. And there are already over 60,000. So that is the new offering that we are bringing in. I've dealt with the stats.
Just this last one. She's sitting right here. We've dealt with that in the beginning.
Yeah, and I've dealt with the stats.
Who's been to Franschhoek, by the way? Have you been? One person, you two. So that is what the minister's talking about. If you going to Cape Town, don't just go to the beach and the waterfront and Table Mountain. You drive 30 minutes into Franschhoek and you'll feel like you are in France. Because it's got a French base, and it will give you French country energy. So put on your to-do list, look for little towns like Franschhoek, and I'm sure you know Stellenbosch, and there are many, many, many others. Like the garden route is Neisner, which has got an elephant park, but lots more, and it's just a quick drive, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, but we're trying to encourage people to venture outside of just the normal attractions. And they are, tell them about the Rimfasmarkt
Yeah, they're on the floor here. There's
in the Northern Cape.
There's a province in South Africa called the Northern Cape. Very desert. Very rich in minerals. They mine diamonds, they mine copper, magnesium. So you've got all of these mining towns also. But, and they have got, in fact, it's the only small town with a air capacity for the A380 to land. A380s can only land in Johannesburg now. Cape Town is still building their runway, but you've got a runway in a town called Uppington that can land A380s. And just around there, about 40 kilometers away, very desert, very dry, very hot. We've got hot springs where water come out of the rocks. And there are a few chalets there, not very updated because you really want to connect with nature. And you can get into the water and sit there, and there's a small little pools where they catch the water, but you can even drink that water. So there are these hot springs, and what I'm trying to do is to get the private sector to build more chalets there so that we can get more tourists there.
And there's a awesome, it's in the Northern Cape, it's called the Rimfasmarkt, but there's an awesome landscape spot that when you stand at that natural hot water spring, the two mountain ranges, that there's a gap in the middle, and the gap is exactly the shape of Africa. So it is like the most wonderful natural phenomenon, two pieces of mountain. So it's an Instagram worthy frame. You stand in the middle and the sky is literally the map of Africa. Minister, can we open for some questions?
I just got one more that I will deal with quickly.
Selling, yeah.
Now, I've dealt with the major tourist attraction, and I've dealt with of course, then this is the year that we're celebrating 30 years of democracy. And indeed, we have got a story to tell. Many of our museums are telling the stories. We're proud that we have come this far. You also have the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg. You've got the District 6 Museum in Cape Town, where in the early 60s, the apartheid regime just flattened, and most of that land has still not been given back to the people. Yeah, I think I can stop there. And then, of course, the elections is coming at the end of the month. So it is, for myself as campaigning and running a government department. So there are a lot of speculations about the elections. Don't believe them. Don't believe the polls. These polls are almost published on a daily basis. And there are a lot of speculation that the current ruling party, the ANC, might get below the 50%. And should that be the case, will there be a coalition? And then the next question is, who will be the coalition partners? And for me, it is that you only talk coalitions after the elections. But already some parties have formed some blocks before the election. So it's a very interesting election for us 30 years after our democracy. So I think we can take questions now.
Minister, you say you're talking to your colleagues at Indaba. What would African cooperation look like? Are you looking for common policies on visas? Are you looking for open skies like we have in Europe? or aviation agreements, the sort of aviation co-chairs that would make getting here easier?
There are a number of bilateral agreements between countries. Just to give you an example, the SADC region, the South, South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, Tanzania, Zambia. Years ago, it was agreed that it will be visa-free to travel amongst the 8 or 10 countries. Up till today, some of the countries have not signed it. So it is there, but it's also not there. I would love to see something like in Europe, the Shanghai, what you call it, Schengen visa, yeah. Whereby you get into Europe and you can visit 18 different countries. It's very difficult. People are very territorial. And they also don't want to look at the benefit of tourism can bring so much value, economic growth, job creation to their countries. People are more interested in collecting, landing airport taxes and regulations. It's a very difficult field. I've been trying to navigate and then decided, no, South Africa, let's go it on our own. Because if you're going to wait for all of those countries to one day agree on anything, it's not going to happen. And therefore, yesterday again, with the 26 ministers that are here and deputy ministers, we spoke again about it. But we've also spoken about it last year. And yes, there was a little bit of progress, but we have to open up the African skies. Definitely no progress there. Thank you.
Avia, and then we'll come to you. Do you mind just stating the publication you're from as well, and your name?
Okay, Laura Dominici from Guida Viaggi, Italy. What is the country's hotel development plans for the next 3-5 years? I know that they are private investments, but which is your orientation? Do you give incentives, and as far for renovation, what can you say? And another question, what do you intend to achieve with your master plan? In how many years and in terms of GDP, of national GDP? Thank you.
I'll take your question as well.
Yes, Minister. I've just spent the last 4 days with UK tour operators, and they're telling me again and again this problem in South Africa is seasonality and the ignorance in the UK. Everybody comes out the winter time, Cape Town, it's all go there for Christmas. We've just been up KZN up to the north, and it was really beautiful weather up there. And they're saying they really want your different provinces to speak to each other much more and try and get this cross-fertilisation rather than just competing Western Cape versus KZN versus get them to work together. And it would really help get rid of this seasonality problem that we've got in the UK. Well, the impression we have, ignorance really.
I agree. Can I deal with the first one?
Yes.
There are many international groups based in South Africa, from the Marriott Group, Legend, all of them. They all have hotels in South Africa. And in the hospitality industry, you also have got a number of small boutique hotels, privately owned hotels. Like if you look at, there's one group called the Cullinan Group. The Cullinan Group owns specific exclusive kind of hotels. They own like the 12 Apostles in Cape Town. They own like the Oyster Box, the Oyster in Umhlanga Rocks. I was there on Sunday nights, quite a pleasure. Then they own, like in the Western Cape, they've got a resort and spa. So they also decide, where they want to build. In terms of our MICE strategy, where we are lacking hotel accommodation is that I would like to see the conferences, the meetings and events being spread across the country. Now we've got a national convention bureau that go out and bid for these international events. But then you find in smaller, medium towns and cities, there's not enough hotel accommodation. So whether the private sector are looking on their own where they need to build hotels, because government is not building hotels. We certainly have engaged them in the hospitality sector to say you must also go outside the bigger cities and build accommodation there. Then we can take smaller conferences, like 200 people, we can take them to those cities. But it's not driven by government, it's driven by the private sector. I know, for instance, also where we've got convention centers like the one here in Durban, the one in Cape Town, one in Port Elizabeth. There is a need for sort of middle income accommodation. And that's maybe what's lacking in Cape Town. There is one hotel now called the Sun Hotel, just opposite the convention center, where they really converted an old office block into an hotel. So there are a lot of plans, and now that we are beginning to see the numbers growing, I'm sure the hospitality sector will take that initiative. The master plan that we have adopted in September, it's a framework. It's like a pathway to build up tourism. And we had another plan, the reconstruction and development of tourism after COVID, like a recovery plan. So we took that recovery plan and we put it into a master plan. And for the first time, the master plan consists of inputs from both the private sector and the public sector. Our statistics, South Africa, they only measure the contribution of tourism to the GDP every second year. So we've got no statistics for 2023, but we have got preliminary statistics from the WTTC, the World Travel and Trade Council. I mentioned that in my speech this morning. That is the only figures that we have. But last year, tourism contributed about 6.7% to GDP. It created 1.3 million jobs also. Yes. When you talk about the 9 provinces that we have in South Africa, now we don't have a federal system. We have got a unitary system, but sort of a hybrid, whereby there are certain functions that are concurrent powers between the national government and the provincial governments. And tourism is one of that. So there's a lack of coordination, and people have become very territorial. Like the Western Cape is just doing things for themselves. KZN on their own, Gauteng on their own, and they're actually competing with one another. And there's no problem with competition. That's what I spoke about this morning. But you have to collaborate because it's one country. And so there's a lot of, it's not very inclusive because they're not working together. And that is why we want to, when we have one national access strategy, we want to promote the whole country with all of those options once we've put that together. Like Durban now, we get more direct flights to Cape Town. So Cape Town has gone to Brazil, for instance. and said, fly directly to Cape Town. And now the other provinces are beginning to do the same, to the same airline, also fly to Durban, or fly to Johannesburg.
Is that year round or just seasonal?
The Brazil one?
Yeah.
No, it's year round.
Okay.
That is South African Airways. One of the flights that came back last year, November, yeah. The first flight was on the 1st of December. So, you're dealing with politicians who want to show their own, and egos, who want to show that I'm doing better than your province. Competition is good, but I agree with you, we need to collaborate more. Yeah.
I have 5 more minutes, colleagues. You may go.
Schengen.
Yeah, I'm representing the Dutch travel trade market from Fab Magazine, the Dutch trade magazine. We've seen that the Dutch market has been growing since 2019, already reached the numbers in March. Do you see any more new opportunities for our market? And are you happy with the numbers as they
No,
are?
we're very happy. We're very happy. And over many years there's been a relationship between the Dutch people and South Africa. We share even a colonial history. And the language is almost similar, Afrikaans and Dutch. I think Afrikaans is just a derivative from Dutch. So there are a lot of things that we share. But again, like I said now to China and to India, also advise us, what more can we do? What are the Dutch travelers interested in that they would love to see? And I can bring it into our global campaign. But when we designed the global campaign, we did contact our various source markets and engage with them to find out what more can we put into our global campaign. But the global campaign is not static. We can add on, we can put in all the time. So I don't have the exact specifics for the Netherlands, but I can try and get it for you. Thank you.
Lindsay from Travel Gossip.
Yes, thank you. Can I just ask, can you tell us any more about the agreement you've got with Google and Airbnb? How is that going to work, and what will that achieve for you?
I can certainly give you a copy of the agreement. I approached Google because what we are lacking behind in the South African tourism space is that we are not making use or enough use of digital and technology. And I'm afraid the world is going to pass us by. So we approached Google to help us with that. But Google, including in the agreement also, is some training for small businesses or any other business that would like training on the Google Maps. Google also worked with us on safety issues. We sat down with them, and then we show them on the Google Maps which are dangerous routes. Like you find routes in all countries that sometimes it's not very safe. And we had one example in the city of Cape Town where Google actually removed that route because it was like a shortcut route through the area where the tourist was killed. So we work with them on safety issues. We're also working with them, and they have invested almost $5 million. I would like to set up a live barometer to measure the number of jobs created by the tourism sector. Like live, you can see, because people just say for every tourist that arrive in our country, create 8 jobs. And so I'm asking, where are these jobs? Which part of the value chain? So we're working with Google on that now to assist us. But it is more to assist us to overlay our tourism our tourism vision, our master plan, overlay that with technology and with digital and show us what is the latest developments in the world. But we can certainly give you a copy of that. Yeah.
And what about
With
the
Airbnb, why we're working with Airbnb is that since the growth of Airbnb, we must guard against government trying to regulate the idea of Airbnb. And I'm saying to government, you can regulate the spaces where Airbnb is that they are going to use, but not the idea. Because sometimes government wants to go too far in and so on. And so we're working together with them on policy spaces, their rental market. Of course, the local municipalities would like them to pay rates and taxes. And so now we've been able to get an agreement with Airbnb on a policy level that we've included in our master plan. So we didn't have to go through this whole process trying to come with an act of parliament. So that's how we're working with Airbnb, and they also here. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Gaia Guarino from TTG Italia. I'm from Italy.
Yes.
And since we're talking about technology, I'd like to ask you if you're investing in AI, since it's a really hot topic in tourism now. Thank you.
Yes, just yesterday at the Bond Day, I've asked them to look at AI. I want us to be prepared for AI. And maybe if you know about research or work that has been done of the impact of AI on tourism, we would love to see that. I mean, it's such an unpredictable space because it's evolving so fast. But I'm just concerned that we are going to be left behind in the AI space. So we have discussed it yesterday in the Bond Day. I've asked SA Tourism also to begin to open up conversation in that space. But currently it's not being used yet in South Africa in the AI and in tourism space. I don't know if you know whether they are using it anywhere else in the world or in Europe, where they are using AI and how they are using AI. Very unpredictable.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we certainly not using it yet in the tourism space. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm Violaine from France. This morning during the opening conference, you reminded that the focus of that year at Indaba was Unlimited Africa. So my question is, in which ways South Africa can be unlimited for tourists, especially for European tourists?
South Africa can be unlimited. I think we are already. We are already, because as we see with the growth. And like I said earlier on, the whole package of value for money. There's also the seasonal ones when it's cold in Europe, it's warm here by us. And we find, especially from the German tourist market, we know in February, all spaces are booked out from people coming from Europe or Norway or Sweden. And so there's also value there. We have just come out with new regulations around nomad tourism, on nomad visas. The regulations was published and it was in the public domain for about 3 days, and then the minister withdrew it again. But it's going to come out soon, whereby basically people can work from anywhere in the world. I spoke to him and found out, why did you withdraw the regulations? Because people are waiting on this, But he said the one thing in the regulations that we did not accommodate was that in terms of the tax regime, for people working from South Africa. South Africa's got tax agreements with many countries, bilateral agreements. So you can't have a tax regime that covers the whole world. South Africa has to consider the existing bilateral agreements when it comes to tax. And so a person will be able to come and work from South Africa for a period of 6 months. I think the first proposal was that you will not be charged any tax for 6 months, and then thereafter you need to start paying tax. And the ministers informed me just last week that he will certainly be republishing the tax regimes on nomads. What is the other word they called? Swallows. Swallows. Yes, that's the word. So that is going to be the next offering from South Africa, where we now finally have got regulations and laws that will regulate people who want to live in South Africa, enjoy our summer, and work from anywhere in the world, basically. Yes.
Colleagues, we have to leave it there because we've got our Africa media up next. But thank you for your interest and questions and for being here. And if there's anything else you need, any stats, I would encourage you to visit our website, www.tourism.gov.za. All of the minister's speeches and statements are on there if you want to do a search on a specific topic which we maybe didn't talk about, or lots of stats are in those statements and speeches, and my details are at the bottom. So if you need to email me or contact me in the future for any follow-ups, then my details are there. www.tourism.gov.za. So there's lots of information there, but contact details if you have anything specific.
And what is your name?
Zara, Z-A-R-A, Nicholson. Thank you so much, Minister. We are off to